Hi, all. This is Karen Stewarkey of Spark Leadership Partners. This week, you get a twofer, both a video blog and a written blog. I encourage you to read the written post because it will offer some additional context and a few extra tips that I don't talk about in the video. The inspiration for this week's blog came from a replay that I watched of Jimmy Valvano. Jimmy was the North Carolina State men's basketball coach who led the team to a historic national championship in 1983. The video was not of that game, but rather Jimmy's acceptance speech from the ESPYs, where he received the Arthur Ashe Award for Courage 2 months before he passed away from cancer. In his speech, Jimmy advocated that every day we do three things: that we think, we laugh, and we cry. And he said, if you do those three things every day, you've had one heck of a day. I completely agree with him. And they're very wise words because for me, they reflect, by allowing ourselves to experience all those emotions, to be fully human, to be all that we are, and not operate as a shell of ourselves. And in this time like no other, we have to tap on all of us, all parts of us, in order to best show up for those who we most care about and to navigate through to a different future. So when I thought about what can I do for myself to actually really tend to that inner self and ensure that I am embracing all that I am, I developed a very simple weekly roundup. Now, I was a softball player for a long time, so you'll have to bear with me in terms of what I created. But it's essentially, I round the bases, except I added a fifth base instead of the fourth one that's typically in a softball diamond. So I visit each of those 5 bases and I just ask myself one simple question. And I do that every week. And I've found that it's actually really illuminating for me as I rediscover parts of myself I'd actually forgotten about. So quickly, I'll talk about what those 5 bases are and what's the question I ask myself. Those 5 bases are as follows. First base is to reflect, to look in the rearview mirror at your journey to date, and to really think about what are the things you're most proud of what you've done, what you've accomplished, what you've endured, what you've gone through. What are some of the lessons and insights that you've learned? All of those create capacities for you to draw upon now, gifts and talents and expertise and experiences that will serve you in this moment. Second base is proflect. Yes, that's an invented word that I created. For those of you who know me well, you know that I tend to sometimes create words or turn of phrases. So proflect is my invented word to do the opposite of reflect, which is to look out the windshield at what lies in front of you and what really is the future or futures that I most want for myself and who I most want to be, and really starting to put a clear picture around what lies in front of you in the journey ahead. Because by getting greater clarity around that, which we often don't do, we can then create the reality that we most want. So on third base, if first base was reflect and second base was proflect, third base is disconnect. And in disconnecting, we're releasing what no longer serves us. And that specifically is around beliefs, thoughts, mindsets, assumptions that maybe have served us at one point in time, but no longer serve us, especially as we think about the road ahead. And it's to consciously release or shed those beliefs or assumptions or worldviews and adopt another that best serves us now. Fourth base is to connect. And what I mean by that is connecting to all that you are. When you hold yourself for your light and your shadow, your perfection and your imperfection, you're able to actually tap into the full extent of what you actually have available. And importantly, connecting is one way to start to cultivate that inner state of joy. Happiness is a state that comes from external circumstances, people or places or events, but it's really joy that is the constant that is within us, that we have the ability to nurture and control. And by connecting, that's one of the ways you can reinforce and nurture that inner state of joy. Fifth base then, the fifth and final base, is to respect, which is to really think about the individuals in your journey to date who've influenced who you are right now. Now, they may be people who know you really well, people who don't know you at all, people who actively supported you, or people who actually threw that curveball that you never saw coming. And while it may have hit you actually and been a bit painful at the time, but you learned something incredibly valuable about yourself, or you just developed the resiliency to move through to a different future. So those are my 5 bases. I'll share with you now my 5 questions. On first base at Reflect, I asked the question, what's one thing in my life journey to date, whether it was 10 years ago or 2 days ago, that can serve me and support me as I move forward? On second base, which is Proflect, I think about what's one thing that I can do in order to step closer to the future that I most want or the person that I most want to be. As I round the corner to third base, which is Disconnect, I ask myself the question, what's one thing that I can let go of or shed? A belief, a mindset, an assumption, a worldview that no longer serves me. And what do I want to replace it with? Fourth base, which is to connect, I think about what's one thing that I can celebrate about myself, about who I am or what I've done that will serve me going forward. And then fifth base, home plate, so to speak, is to respect. And I think about who's one person who's done one thing that enables me to be who I am today. So 5 bases, 5 questions. It takes me about 15 minutes. And for me, that's one way to step into, rediscover, and appreciate all that I am. May that also help you as you do that on a weekly basis. Remind yourself of all that you are. Again, I encourage you to visit the website of Spark Leadership Partners in order to read the written blog, which will give some further context around those bases and questions. Take care.